Keep up with Scottish football with your host, John Turner.
So on this week's episode of the Low Ball Show, we've got former Airdrie, West Ham, Rangers, Hearts, Partick Thistle and Dunfermline player. Been in the dugout with quite a few number of clubs as well. Currently at Albion Rovers, Sandy Clark. Sandy, thanks for joining us today.
It's a pleasure, John. Nice to meet you.
So the kind of very first thing I just wanted to jump into is you started your career with Airdrie and were there for a number of years. How does it feel playing there and now managing here?
It's not a big problem, to be fair. I think it may have been an issue a long time ago, but 1970 I signed for Airdrie in the Nest Forum, signed professional in 1974, so it's a long time ago. So I don't think there's a lot of rivalry then, and as there is now. But I think people understand it better now. You know, yeah. I'm happy and being Albion Rovers. I'm really enjoying my time here. I'm getting back into coaching and management, which is great. It's given me a wee lift. So no hassle whatsoever.
And I mean, being at Airdrie, because you were there for a number of years now, made well over 200 appearances there. How did that feel, kind of playing with your local club?
I was an Airdrie fan. That's the history. I signed for Airdrie, as I said, in 1970. I was 13 on a schoolboy forum. It was now the development leagues, the equivalent to that. But I'd been an Airdrie fan. You know, I lived in. I was born in Gartley. I lived in Petersburg and the old Airdrie Stadium, obviously, in the town centre. I used to walk to training. Eventually, I used to go as a fan to watch the games and go in the supporters' bus to away games. And I really did love the club. My memories is Texaco Cup days way back.
Yeah.
It was brilliant at the time, and I ended up playing for the team not too long after that. So I was there till I was 25, and captain of the team. And you know, there was a lot of interest, different rules as far as football goes in those days. There was no freedom of contract. I think I signed one contract with Airdrie at 17, and never signed another one. I left 8 years later. You just get retained in a registration form, and that was it. Thankfully, things have moved on from the players' point of view, but absolutely brilliant memories of playing with Airdrie.
And then leaving there, was that a tough decision because of the kind of love that you felt for the club?
I think it wasn't tough. It was kind of funny situation that, you know, I was 25 at the time. We'd managed to get into the Premier League with Airdrie as a part-time club and survive in it for a year. So, you know, from the football point of view, I wanted to try myself at a higher level. But the daft thing was that, back to silly things, no silly things really, it's really relevant. The amount of money that Scottish clubs paid players then wasn't great. I had a really good full-time job with a credit company, and I was playing part-time as captain of Airdrie. So between the two jobs, I was probably earning more than players at Rangers and Celtic would earn. So it took a lot, for me to go in a lot of ways. But when the chance came to go to West Ham, it came out of the blue a little bit for me. But to go to the top league in England with one of the top clubs, and the money was obviously decent as well. Nothing like what they get now, but it was decent at the time. It was an easy decision, and it's. I remember saying at the time, if I don't go full time, have a go at it. When I get to 35, 40, I'm going to really regret it. So thankfully, I had a wee go at it, and I've got no regrets.
And what was it like, you know, the kind of differences of being up here to then going to, you know, a top flight team in England? Did you find that, you know, like some people would walk in and be like, wow, did you?
Yeah, it was big. You know, London's a big place, but the football club, you know, was big with Chadwell Heath, the training ground at West Ham. They still use it, yeah. You know, it was a massive area. The stadium wasn't the biggest stadium, Upton Park. I think it held about 35,000, but it was noisy. It was, the top players that were playing. The way you were looked after, like, I'm not knocking any clubs at the time, but part-time at Airdrie, the coaching opportunities are the opportunities to be coached is a better way of putting it. You know, we're few and far between. Wilson Humphreys came in with Bobby Watson towards the end of my time at Airdrie, and Wilson, you know, was a well-respected coach, and that's the first time I really get any coaching as such. The cold winter days in Airdrie at that time, you ran about the town and kept warm and played in tarmac with lights from I think it was Safeway supermarket across the road for the old stadium, and that, you know, that's what we put up with training lots of times. So that aspect was massive for me. The fact that you're going from part time, an hour and a half, two nights a week, game on a Saturday, to every day involved in trying to make yourself better at football. So it was a massive learning curve, but a tremendous experience.
Then coming back to Scotland and playing the Rangers, you know, one of the biggest clubs in Scotland, how was that to come back and play for them?
It's unless you know the way that Scottish football is, and obviously the people who watch this or listen to this will probably totally understand. In Scotland, you kind of generally support one or the other, especially Western Scotland, the area I'm from. That was you're either a Rangers fan or a Celtic fan. Along with, as I said, I was an Airdrie fan. So my allegiance was very much towards Rangers, and Rangers and Celtic, massive clubs in our country. And it's no a regret. I wish I'd stayed longer at West Ham, but I really love, the time that I played with Glasgow Rangers and pulling on that blue shirt. It was absolutely an amazing feeling, and playing in Old Firm games and scoring goals in Old Firm games. How do you put a price on that?
Yeah.
Nobody can take that away. I wish I'd stayed a bit longer at West Ham, but that's a decision you make in life, and like everything else in my football career, I don't have any kind of regrets and think, no, I shouldn't have done that.
And that was just kind of one of the points for your time at Rangers. I mean, you'd scored, in kind of a lot of big games. What was that feeling like?
The Rangers.
Yeah.
It's a massive club. The pressure comes on all players, even more so now with all the social media and everything that goes with it. But when you're in front of a crowd of 50, 60,000 people, if you do well, it's absolutely brilliant. As you say, if you score a goal in that situation, you're an absolute hero, and that's great. But it goes the other way as well. If things don't go well, if the team's not doing great, and you're not doing great, then you get absolute dogs abuse, and that carries out everywhere. It's a lot worse now than it was then. But you have to earn the right to do well and score goals, whatever else. And it's priceless unless you've actually felt it. Then it's hard to understand just how good a feeling it is.
And did you find that when you played with Rangers and you kind of started there that you were getting recognised about a lot?
I was back to when I was at Airdrie, 23, 24, a couple of years before I left. There was so much interest in me from different clubs. Celtic tried to sign me, Hibs, Hearts tried to sign me, Aberdeen. Alex Ferguson was there at the time. He was really keen to get me. Airdrie decided, no, you're not going, which didn't please me at times. But I think what's the best way to describe it? I think you're in the front line, you're kind of known then, and I think I had a really good reputation for myself playing with Airdrie, and that kind of continued all the way through. I've been very, very lucky the clubs that I've played at a really high level, and it's been a great career for me.
And the one quick thing that I want to say is, as I do well, I guess, do my kind of looked and research and done stuff, went onto YouTube. You scored some cracking goals throughout your career.
I'm not sure about that. I think when I kind of look back and analyse myself as a player, I was a big lad. I was quick when I was young. I wasn't quick when I was a bit older. I was very physical the way I played. I would probably say I set up more chances for other strikers, guys like John Roberts and Alan McCoist, than I scored myself. If it was outside 18 yards box, it'd need to have been a header for me, to be honest with you. So, it was more tap-ins and getting in, the right place at the right time, close to the goal. And then, as I said, it's the best feeling in the world. And if you're playing as a striker, you have to be producing. Well, if you're not scoring goals, you're making goals. And to stay in the team at a high level of club, you have to make sure you're doing the right things. And back to what I said before, it's hard to beat that kind of feeling.
And I know you'd obviously played on after that, but when you began the kind of transition into being in the dugout, was that an easy transition to make?
Back a wee bit with that, I spoke about going to West Ham, and the club the way it was structured with the training ground and the coaches, etc. John Lyall was the head coach, the manager at West Ham, and I learned so much from John. And after being part time in a year, it was scary. The next summer I come back to Scotland during the summer and did my SFAB licence because I had the coaching bug. I was 26, 27 I would have been at the time, which is quite young for doing that. But I just wanted to get into that because John, he was such a good manager. He was a character. He earned everybody at the club's respect for his coaching ability. And I learned then how important it is to get it right on the pitch, and the advice and support and help you get from the dugout can be absolutely massive. If there's somebody screaming like a lunatic at the side of the pitch and shouting, "Oh, you need to try harder," or "Oh, you need to get better," and stop giving the ball away, you have to be more constructive than that. And I learned that early on for John. He certainly got the best out of me, and he was incredibly successful at West Ham with a lot of massive top players, guys like Trevor Brooking and Alan Devonshire and Tony Cottee, people like that, Paul Goddard. They're all in England internationalists. So that's where I got the bug for the coaching aspect. After the Rangers bit, I had a brilliant spell as a player at Hearts, where we had probably the best team togetherness, maybe the best way of putting it, that I've come across in football. Everywhere I've coached and managed, I've tried to replicate that as best you can. We just had a super group. Alec McDonald and Sandy Jardine, Walter Borthwick, John Binney in charge of that group. And Alex, his management style was different from John Lyall. More man management, but I tell you what, every single player that played for him, really gave it everything they had. And that's, I learned a lot from him as well from that aspect. So that learning curve going there and a team that was really, really top class guys was another part of the kind of reason why, I wanted to kind of stay in it.
And then kind of looking at throughout, because you've done a lot of, when you've been an assistant to being a manager, did you have any preference of what you were doing, or?
It's quite straightforward. I had obviously got my B licence, as I said. Didn't realise it's quite soon after that. So by the time I was 30, at that time that was the top qualification you could get in Scottish football. So I had the top level of qualification as a coach when I was still playing. I ended up getting injured, hurt my Achilles tendon, and that kind of stopped me playing at 31, 32. And from then on, you think, right, what am I going to do? I was lucky that I got a coaching role at Hearts, which gave me an incredibly good grounding. I had an under-18 team. Alan Johnson, for example, who I've worked with a lot, I'm sure you'll mention him, was in that team. Paul Ritchie, Alan McManus, Kevin Thomas. There was lots of really top players in an under-18 team at the time. And that group, because of Alan McDonald, his kind of philosophy, I managed to manage them well, really discipline them for the right reasons, made sure they were working as hard as they could be, living properly off the pitch, being the best they could be in their young, early part of their careers. And that gave me the confidence and the kind of desire to go, right, I want to at some point try and be a manager. So that was the kind of process I went through. Injury stopped me playing at the top level a bit earlier than maybe I'd like to have played. But I've made the best of it since and managed to be a manager at a lot of clubs, at a lot of good clubs, a lot of good teams. Being assistant manager, which the kind of transition to that, I'll go back maybe 20 years or so, where I think at that point in management, I thought, I don't want this certain side of it, like the media side of it. Directors think they know better, fans think they know better. So probably, going through a difficult spell, as in it wasn't, there was a lot of criticism coming, and I thought, I'm not having this. But, it's not what I want. So, after I left St Johnstone, I then kind of looked to do coaching more than management, and I was a coach, assistant manager for the next maybe best part of 20 years. Working with different people at different clubs, spent a long time with Alan Johnson at Queen of the South, and Felman and Kilmarnock, back at Queen of the South. So that's a few years. Darren Young at this club,
Yeah.
10 years ago that you've had on your programme. So I loved that aspect where I could just get amongst the players and coach, and that has been good for me. I've been happy doing that, and I think I can contribute. I have contributed quite a bit to a lot of different people and a lot of different teams over the years. And really just by chance, once Alan and I left Queen of the South a year and a half ago roughly, it was difficult to get another job, and I'm not getting any younger. Towards the end of last year I thought, if I don't have a go at something, it's going to pass me by. I'm going to be too old. I'm not going to get the opportunity. So I decided then, stuff it, I'm going to apply for any job that comes along, and literally any job. And applied for one second division club, didn't get it. Applied for the job at East Stirlingshire. I think it was maybe the end of November last year, and Andy Williamson interviewed me as the kind of chairman, and Ian his assistant, and I really enjoyed the interview. I had a chat with them, and they were really pleased with me, offered me the job. I'm not going to tell you the financial money that was involved, because it would be a bit embarrassing. But I wasn't caring. I'd done it for nothing, to be honest with you, and I was doing it for nearly nothing. But I got the feel for it right away again. I loved being back in it, and that gave me the kind of desire, hunger again to kick on and just see what happens. And then I ended up after that coming to Albion Rovers. But it's been a great journey. There's been a lot of bits in between. There's been a lot of learning, but I'm really lucky. I'm 66 and I've never been out of the game for any longer than maybe a year or so. Connected with a club for 35 years or something as a coach, the coaching and management side of it. So must be getting something right somewhere, but it's been great.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I would say is, as you says, mentioning Darren Young, who's been on the show, and with a few of the guests that I've had on the show, is some of them have either crossed paths with you, like Darren did, Todd Lumsden did, others maybe coming up against you in kind of different capacities. But Darren, Todd, where I think about 10 minutes of their interview was talking about how massive an influence you had been for them, Darren especially, which was big. And I'm assuming it must be kind of good to see where they go and they progress.
Absolutely. It's an easy one for me. Alan Johnson had I've known Alan since he was a wee skinny 16-year-old, so I've known him a long time. And when he asked me to go to Queen of the South with him, which must be 12 years ago or something, I'm not sure of the time. He had the knowledge, the sense to know I'm a rookie manager. I need somebody that I can trust to work beside me, to kind of guide me. And he asked me if I would do it. And at the time, I jumped at the chance to do it with him. And we had a great relationship, a great spell over the years. Alan will tell you himself, he was very new to the situation, very naive in so many ways, but he learned quick. And that's the only way you survive in the game. And Darren's a bit the same. I worked with Darren at Dunfermline. When I was coaching there, Darren was a player there. Darren's brother Derek, two brothers, one of them's a head case and one's quite sensible. I'll let you work out what's what. But great family, a football family, great guys. And Darren asked me to come to Albion Rovers with him. And the great thing about Alan and Darren both doing that is there's so many probably young managers come into the game thinking, I know what I'm doing. I don't really need a lot of help. And they're maybe a bit wary of asking somebody older, would you want to come and help me think, in case maybe at the back of the mind they're thinking, he's maybe going to want my job, he's going to take my job off me, and they're trying to do it. So Alan and Darren, good on them for having the guts to have a go, and I've got a great relationship with both of them, and I'm sure Alan will get back in, Alan Johnson. And Darren, I'm really surprised he's not got another club yet, to be honest with you, because he's had a wonderful spell at Stirling Albion. I'll need to remember him. I think we were, until recently, the only team that beat them in about 40 odd games. But good young managers, not that young now, they're getting on, but they've learned their trade, and hopefully I've helped them a little bit along the way.
Well, what I'll say is I did remind Darren about the game here, because I was at it, and he did start to list off injuries to me.
Excuses. At that point, I'm in the market too. We played. We were desperate for points, and I think we'd have beaten. But back onto you mentioned Todd. Todd and I met, and just through the football situation again. Maybe I'm trying to think of the times. It goes back to that quick. 13, 14 years ago, I worked a lot with SFA, doing coach education with them. Working on the A license, B license courses at Largs at the time it was, and I was working for the SFA in the summer at Largs doing the A license, and Todd was a student on the course, and Todd hadn't met him, but watched him coach and got to know him really a little bit, not drastically, and I think I'd maybe just left Kilmarnock at the time, so I actually wasn't working. It was one of those short spells where you're not doing anything. And after the course, maybe a month or so later, Todd phoned me, and I didn't actually know, but Todd was a curriculum leader at Commonwealth College. It was at the time, it's New College Lanarkshire now. Todd was working there on football performance course, and he said to me, "You fancy a job?" I says, "No, it depends what it is." He says, "You want to be a lecturer at college?" I went, "Todd, I can't be a lecturer." So my wife and I's got 5 hires between us, and she's got the 5 of them. So that was and when Todd explained what was involved in the course, I went for an interview with HR and with the principal, Mark Maguire, who was a football guy at Commonwealth College, absolutely brilliant principal. Todd's obviously a football person as well, and suddenly I end up in a classroom with a bunch of kids at 16, 17. How I survived it, I don't know. I've no idea. I mean that as in my lack of ability to be a teacher, a lack of experience of being a teacher, not the kind of football aspect. But it was the staff in that office that who were so supportive. Teamwork again. Back to important that everybody pulls together. But Todd was in charge and picked well with his staff, and we had still got a great group. Todd's moved on a little bit to West Lothian College. But 14 years later, I'm still working at New College Lanarkshire, whether it's a day a week, 2 days a week, 5 days a week, depending on my situation. And it's back to working with young players, young footballers, young men, and I feel I've got a lot to offer in trying to help them develop their lives, to grow up a little bit and understand responsibility and how you get to move on and have a pathway and all that kind of stuff. So between the football bit, we've got a very young team at Albion Rovers, and college where dealing with the moment with 40 odd kids who are between 16 and 20. But they are it's a very good course with a pathway. In fact, at the moment, I've got, I think, 3 players at Albion Rovers who have been through the college performance course. So there is a pathway there if you get it right. So the two kind of jobs, part-time jobs, if you want to call it that at the moment, kind of work well together. There's so many similarities.
And can I ask, I'm assuming it's easier to keep together the 40 kids than it is sometimes a squad of footballers?
No, the group here are fine. The group, I said, they're very young. Albion Rovers fans will know I've signed Alan Reid. Alan's 35, I think now, maybe going on 36. He's still working really hard at his fitness. He's getting there. He was in the team that Dan and I had that won the league, and I know what he brings to it. So we've got Arnie Casa as well. He's a bit older, and Arnie's 31, and Alan's 35. Other than that, we're very young. Yeah. And I signed them two deliberately to try to help balance out the inexperience in the team. And they're great in the dressing room. The guys got on really well in here. It's back to the learning bit. We need to do the coaching bit right, which I learned a lot from John Lyle. The man management bit for wee Doddy at Hearts. And you try to take the good bits for them all and try to make it as best you can. I've got George Patterson working with me. George worked with Alan and myself at Queen of the South. George, he's got his own business, Ultimate Soccer, which is again about developing young footballers from an early age, 7, 8, 9, maybe even younger than that, to full-time players who come back to him continually. Max Johnson, for example, Alan's son, who's just went to Sturmgrass in Austria from Motherwell. Max spent a lot of time with George to help his football development, different components of fitness, make himself a bit bigger, faster, stronger. And George's business is very good at doing that type of thing, and he's got lots and lots of pro players who still come back and do sessions with them. So George is with me now as well, same kind of ethics as myself, understands the need for development of players, how you go about it and whatever. So, it's a great ally to me in trying to make Albion Rovers better.
And just to kind of get to the finally the kind of Albion Rovers point, how do you feel the kind of time back's been? Kind of mixed emotions?
Oh, it's very much mixed. When I come back to the club, I thought we had 6 games to try to avoid defeat. We were bottom of the league, and I thought we would get there. I thought we'd be all right. We won 3, we lost 3, and if you do the sums on that, 9 points from 6 games takes you to playoff position if it happens the whole season. Unfortunately, and I'm not blaming anybody else for this, the 1 or 2 teams in the league at that time down tools for me and stopped playing, and results of games went against what I thought would maybe have happened. It was still up to us, as I said, we lost 3, we won 3, if we'd maybe won one more game, and I can pinpoint it, we played East Fife at East Fife, and we hammered them, were so much better than them for the whole game, and we ended up losing 2-1 after missing 4 or 5 incredibly good chances. And that day, Elgin City scored in the 95th minute to win at home, and that point swing that day was the difference. And between us, ended up bottom of the league instead of being maybe one place up.
And now, obviously, we happening in the playoffs and coming down into the kind of lowland leagues here. How do you feel that that's kind of started out?
I know the Lowland League from my time at East Stirling,
Yeah.
and I've said to the guys at the start of the season, it's a good league. It's very competitive. What I love about it is there's a lot of good football teams. They pass the ball well. They try to play the game in the modern way. There's lots of really good young coaches, stroke managers at the clubs who are trying to progress and learn, and they're trying to make their way up the ladder. Need to find a sideways ladder or something at my age to go somewhere else. But I really like coming up against them. I like the way that they're trying to develop. There's a lot of good players in the league as well.
Yeah.
And I know that if they're scouted properly from leagues higher up, but I think probably the best way to describe it is if you take the top 6 or 7 in the Lowland League and take the bottom half of League 2, you would have one hell of a league. They would all beat each other. They're that good. Could you have a complaint about there should be more chance of getting up the way? I don't know, that's not for me, but there maybe should be a better pathway that you can move from Lowland League to, I know it's there already, and Spartan showed that last year, but I think it should be a wee bit more opportunities for the Lowland League teams to maybe definitely get up, don't have to win a playoff, and maybe a playoff for second place, something like that, but that's way beyond my player.
And with looking at how the season started and where you want to go with the club, how do you feel you're on kind of close to doing that?
Everything in football is about players. Players make teams. The more resources you have, the more you can attract better players. We don't have the biggest budget in the league. We haven't got the worst, but we're far from the biggest budget. And at any football club that I've worked at as a manager, I would never go to a board of directors or a chairman and say, you need to give me more money, I need to get more money, I need to get players in. If they haven't got the money, I would expect them to be fair with me and give us what they've got, and I think that's what's happening at Albion Rovers. Because if you put the club at risk because of the money, you end up tipping over and you're gone.
Yeah.
And that's the last thing that can happen. So that's my kind of philosophy on that. You've got East Kilbride in their league who obviously have a massive budget compared to I think everybody else. I don't think it's unfair in saying that. You've got other clubs who will have double the budget we've got, and that comes into maybe 3 or 4 teams amongst that. But in saying that, I think we'll compete against every team we play. I know we'll compete against every team we play. We won't win every game. We've lost the games we've lost have been to young boys at Hearts and Celtic, and it's games we probably shouldn't have lost, but we did, and that's a different model playing against them. The other league games we've done well in, so it's up to us to challenge and win a league. For me, I keep saying here, guys, you've got to stop making basic silly mistakes that lead to a goal when you're not under any pressure. That happened to us at Stirling Uni last week, winning 2-0 and we ended up 2 each. I think it's fair to say I wasn't too happy at the end of the game, and for the first time the boys kind of got a wee bit for me that I've still got the enthusiasm, I've still got the spark, I still hate getting beat with a vengeance, and you can take getting beat if the team's better than you and they play better than you, you get better players, but if you're winning 2-0 and you lose sloppy goals through mistakes, then that still upsets me, put it that way. And I'm glad I've still got that because I've still got that desire to win and do well.
Yeah. What I will say is at the Stirling Uni game, I was there, and I did, because of the way the tunnel is there. I did kind of walk down. I did see your face and thought, probably won't use it now to introduce myself. I'll wait till through the
Good
week.
idea.
But and I know it's completely different, but just kind of talking general football, I had been there on the Saturday before to see Stirling Albion and Hamilton play,
right,
and that was a 2-0 that got pulled back to a 2 each. As well, so probably the omen is I shouldn't go to the games.
No, we'll not blame you, John. It's all right.
But when you're kind of looking at the kind of pathway that you're looking to achieve, I mean, I'm assuming promotion's the priority.
Yeah. I think it is. I want to try and win every game. I know realistically that's not going to happen. I don't think East Kilbride, for example, will win every game, but they're going to win a lot of games, as they've shown already. We are playing catch up. I think we're 4/5 games behind almost everybody else in the league, which is unfortunate, but that's just the way the league's set up. And we played in the League Cup, and that's what set us back with that.
Is that frustrating?
It's frustrating, but I wouldn't change it. I'd still, the games we learned so much playing against Kilmarnock, Dunfermline, and Raith Rovers. 2 championship teams and a Premier League team, gave them all a game, which showed me we're capable. We can still get better, as I keep saying. So that was a good guide for me. Frustrating? No, it's just the way it is. We have to handle it. We have to look at where we can fit. I think we're 4 games outstanding. Where we can fit those 4 games in. Like the fixtures change for the Scottish Cup kind of killed us a wee bit. We're now playing the Monday instead of the Saturday. We were supposed to play Edinburgh Uni on the Tuesday after the Cup game. Obviously we can't play that. I tried to rearrange that fixture for next midweek to kind of kill one of the 4 games, and it didn't suit Edinburgh to to do that, so which is their privilege. So I still have to fit the 4 games in, so it's going to be like a kind of Saturday Tuesday scenario at some point. And that'll be a tester. But if we're playing well at the time, then we win the games, then fine. I'd rather have the points in the bag and be up there challenging right now. Yeah. But we're planning for it. We know that's the way it is. So I'm looking a good bit ahead and trying to make sure the fixtures work out.
So is that something that you have to then sit and organise, is these rearranged games?
Well, it's Colin, our secretary, will do it with me. The club are great, as in, if I say to the chairman, I'd like this, he'll go, no bother. He knows I'm not going to ask for anything daft, but they're very supportive. And you need to look at, a lot of different aspects. Is your ground available at the right time? The opposition have to agree to what date you're going to play, that kind of stuff. So Colin is great working alongside me with that, but I try to look at it. We could like I tried to play the game next midweek, which would have suited us football wise. That didn't work out. Colin's the one that did the groundwork on trying to contact Edinburgh, etc. So as that, I've looked at free Saturdays, etc. as we go on. So we'll try to use that as we can, but they might end up being cup days and stuff like that. No position might no fit. But we'll definitely get the games in before the end of the season, that's for sure.
And just kind of looking, I know you'd mentioned the signings before, and just having a kind of brief talk on how this season's started for you. And when you mentioned about I think that the word you used was kind of easy mistakes or silly mistakes that something made. Have you kind of brought these boys in the hope that the experience will help bring other boys on.
Yeah, you learn from each other in football. I can coach in the pitch. I've been doing it a long time. George is the same. Sometimes, and I learned as a young player at Airdrie at 17, 18, 19, your peers, your guys in your team, especially experienced ones, you can learn so much from them. It's frightening. The times I was threatened at Airdrie, I got sent off in a game against Clyde one day, and we're winning 1-0, we get beat 2-1, and Jim Black, who was a hero of mine as a young boy, played for Airdrie, then went to Hibs, back to Airdrie, so I'm playing alongside this experienced player who was at the end of his career, and after the game I thought he was going to kill me. He physically had a grip of me, and I absolutely panicked. Thankfully somebody else grabbed him and stopped him, because I was kidding, I was trying to fight him back, no chance. He had a hand like a shovel, just to slap me, and that'd be that. And that was a great learning curve for me. You know, you learn, you'll accept criticism. That's the reason I brought Alan and Arnie in. They'll accept criticism more, and they'll be hurt more by it. If a player says to them, "Hey, that's not good enough," the manager says that to everybody. He says it all the time. And but if one of your teammates says to you, "That's not good enough," and I've learned that, and I've gave that out to players as a player myself, an experienced player. It's one of the best lessons you can get.
And just a kind of final question I've got, I really appreciate you taking the time. When you've been playing, so you've played at many different levels, played at many different grounds across kind of the country and beyond. When you're at these kind of grounds, do you hear a lot of the shouts from the crowd?
Yeah, you hear shouts everywhere. As I said, at 50,000, you get either you're a hero or you're the worst thing in the world. It can happen. I think, and you do hear the crowds. You do hear people shout. Totally, and it happens. My philosophy is, if you're a player, if you get your sleeves up and get stuck in and work as hard as you can, it's very difficult for supporters to give you stick.
Yeah.
You make a mistake, accidentally, it happens all the time. That's football. And when you're standing on the terrace, and it looks easy. There's always opposition against you. And it's exactly the same as a manager. If you are trying your best and you're trying to pick the right team, you're trying to do the right things, then I know I can go home at night. Saturday nights are no good for me if you get beat. But it's only because you care. And the biggest thing is, after it, if you get beat, I'll say to myself, did I do everything right? Did I prepare properly? Did I do things right Tuesday night, Thursday night? Did I pick the right team? And if I can say most of the time, I did. I know I've worked hard, that doesn't change. But sometimes you might pick the wrong striker, you might pick the wrong goalkeeper to play in a game, and that can happen. That's just your choice that you make, and hopefully as you get older you make less mistakes with it. But as long as you can look yourself in the mirror and say, I've done my best, then I don't think anybody can complain.
Yeah. And the final question I've got for you, Sandy, is a non-football related question, might not have it here. So if there was a film to be made about your life, who would you pick to play you?
Oh, gee. I've got absolutely no idea. Who was that boxer in Rocky? What's his name?
Sylvester Stallone.
We'll go for him. Hope he's still alive.
he is. I've only had one person that's picked somebody that's not alive. That was Gordon Smith.
Oh, right, okay.
He picked Robbie Coltrane.
Oh, Jesus. Good.
But Sandy, really appreciate your time. Really appreciate you taking the time out to come. All the best for the rest of the season. And thanks for coming on.
Brilliant, John.
Cheers,
Thank
mate.
you. Enjoyed.
Thank you.
Cheers.